Alright, boys and girls, all of the costumes have officially dropped for the latest DLC wave of Smash Ultimate, so we can finally tackle their costume origins. This wave brought us the second Final Fantasy VII rep, the one-winged angel Sephiroth, as well as some Final Fantasy and Square Enix related Mii Fighter costumes. This time around was a little bit weird because Sephiroth technically released like 5 days ago, but everything else didn't, so I wanted to wait until I could do one whole video when the update came out. So it's time to look at all the pretty colors and pull a vague reference out, so let's get to it. Oh, and by the way, this video may contain spoilers for Final Fantasy VII. Hey, if Sakurai can spoil the plot to a 20-year-old game, then so can I. Sephiroth's design largely stays the same for the majority of his appearances. Being one of Square Enix's most popular characters, there is a ton of source material to look at, and his design is very consistent across all of those different sources, and this extends into his appearance in Smash. But there's one thing that majorly changed about Sephiroth's design during the years. His famous wing was actually not originally a part of his design in the original Final Fantasy VII. It didn't make an appearance until the film Final Fantasy VII Advent Children and the Dissidia Final Fantasy game series. It was given to Sephiroth as a reference to one of the forms that he takes on in the original Final Fantasy VII. Since then, however, the wing has become a staple of his design, even making its way into guest appearances like Kingdom Hearts and in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now for Sephiroth's alternate colors, they've really just got Cloud Syndrome. Huge portions of the character, like his wing and his hair, stay the same across every alt. And the colors for each alt look like they've been smeared entirely in dirt first. And in all likelihood, most of these probably aren't based on anything. I know it's weird for me to say, especially in this series, but these basically just hit the main alternate colors and then they seem to call it a day. But for the sake of the series, we're still going to find some similarities to tie each of these costumes to. By the way, if you have not yet, please go ahead and subscribe. Thank you. Alright, so first up is a muted purple color scheme. This is found several times through Final Fantasy VII, notably in the soldier enemies. First-class soldiers in the original Final Fantasy VII wore purple, and second-class soldiers in Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII had a similar color scheme. The color is just substantially less vibrant on Sephiroth. Like I said, it looks like he rolled around in some dirt. Following that is a green color scheme. Now this could potentially be a reference to the Midgar Zolom, a species of serpent found leading up to the Mithril Mine. It could also be a reference to Emerald Weapon, an optional super boss who debuted in Final Fantasy VII, and who has the highest HP of any enemy in the game at a staggering 1 million. The red outfit for Sephiroth could reference Genesis Rhapsodos, the primary antagonist of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. Genesis is a soldier created under the JENOVA project, a set of experiments performed by the Shinra Electric Power Company. The project that created Genesis was a similar experiment to the project that created Sephiroth. However, both used different methods and had different scientific leads. This color scheme is also found in Dissidia Final Fantasy NT as one of Sephiroth's possible colors, and again, the inspiration is drawn from Genesis. Moving to the white-silver one, I just don't think that this one has anything really. I've seen people say that it references Rufus Shinra, who notably wears all white, but I simply think the colors, even with creative liberties taken into consideration, I just don't think they really match. Rufus wears entirely bright white, and I wouldn't even be able to argue that this Sephiroth color is even off-white. I mean, it's just straight up silver. The closest that I think I can find would again be related to the color of another boss, this time Diamond Weapon. Diamond Weapon was initially not a fight in the original Japanese release of the game as a result of short development time, and the reward for defeating the boss is left as unused content in the game's data. But upon international release, there was more development time allotted, and they were able to add some additional features, and this boss was added to the game's story. Next up is a blue color, which most likely comes from the Soldier 3rd Class. These soldiers were depicted with deep blue clothing in the original release of the game. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, the colors for 3rd Class soldiers were updated, which makes the comparison even more appropriate for Sephiroth. Even actual characters who are 3rd Class soldiers and not just generic enemies wear this same uniform, so I'm pretty confident that this might actually be the reference. And after that, Sephiroth gets 2 other skins. And I mean it when I say skins.
Oh no, he's hot!
These final two costumes depict Sephiroth completely shirtless, but still wearing his pants and boots, and despite the render, maintaining his wing. These costumes are based on his appearance as the final boss of Final Fantasy VII. There isn't much else to say on that, it's just straight up what he looks like. This costume also made an appearance in the fighting game Dissidia Duodecim Final Fantasy as Sephiroth's Executioner outfit. The final costume is a red recolor of this appearance, and it likely holds the same reference as the previous red costume, which is a reference to Genesis and his color scheme. And with that, it's now time to talk about the Miis. We're nowhere near finished talking about Final Fantasy, so buckle up because it's time to talk party members! The first 3 Mii Fighter skins unveiled for this DLC wave are 3 of Cloud's party members in Final Fantasy VII. Some would say the 3 most popular. First, let's start with Barret. Barret Wallace is the leader of Avalanche, an eco-terrorist group determined to prevent Shinra from using the life source of the planet, Mako, as a form of energy. He wields a gun on his hand after Shinra shot and severely injured his right arm during the destruction of his hometown. The same altercation caused his best friend to seemingly die and leave his daughter fatherless. As a result, Barret adopted the daughter, Marlene, and his vendetta against Shinra began, which led him to joining and rising the ranks of Avalanche. The next Mii costume is Tifa. Tifa Lockhart is a childhood friend of Cloud's, both growing up in the same hometown. Tifa is also a member of Avalanche, joining after, you guessed it, Shinra destroyed her and Cloud's hometown. She trained beneath the martial arts master of their town and fights using these martial arts during Final Fantasy VII. The final party member Mii costume is Aerith. Aerith Gainsborough is the last of an ancient race of people known as the Cetra. The Cetra are capable of powerful magic, and as a result, Shinra sought to exploit her abilities for their gain. Both she and her birth mother were captured by Shinra and held captive for years before eventually escaping. Her mother then collapses and, with her dying breath, asks Elmira Gainsborough to keep Aerith safe. Elmira then effectively adopts Aerith and raises her as her own. Also, spoiler, she dies. The fourth Mii Fighter hat is the Chocobo Hat. Returning from Smash for 3DS and Wii U, this hat is based on the Chocobo creatures found regularly in the Final Fantasy series. Appearing in every Final Fantasy game since Final Fantasy II, they're considered the series mascot effectively, in a similar manner to the slime from Dragon Quest. And finally, we have the warrior from Star Road himself, Geno, returning as a Mii costume from 3DS and Wii U. Geno appears in Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, developed by Square. Geno is a spirit who is sent down to retrieve star pieces that are missing from Star Road and that are necessary in order to grant wishes. Geno initially appears as a floating spirit, so in order to take physical form, he inhabits a doll that looked the strongest to him. After meeting up with Mario and his gang, Geno agrees to join them in their quest to find the star pieces. And that is going to do it for this video. Sephiroth, the Final Fantasy Miis, and unfortunately, Geno. I really feel your pain, Geno fans. I really do. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.